A postman who died for nearly half an hour miraculously came back to life while he was being wheeled to the morgue. Doctors have dubbed Joao Araujo the Miracle Man after he made an incredible recovery following a heart attack. A team of medics said there is no concrete explanation for what happened to him, and why he was able to walk away from hospital just 3 weeks later. And it isn't the first time Mr. Araujo has managed to escape death after he was in a devastating crash that left him with 90% blood loss, reports Gloucester Live. Doctors said he would never survive the operation, walk or move his arms again, but he defied all odds and pulled through. The 38-year-old has now shared his incredible story. Nearly 10 years on. Mr. Araujo was pulling out of his drive on April 18, 2009, when he suffered a cardiac arrest. His wife Grazielle, who he was dropping to work, watched in horror as his eyes rolled into the back of his head and his hands clenched rigidly around the gear stick and steering wheel. As she then saw his tongue turning over into the back of his throat, she shoved her phone into his mouth to prevent it flipping any further backwards. She then ran from the car and managed to call an ambulance with the help of a neighbor. He was then rushed to Gloucestershire Royal Hospital where, after 6 hours, all the shots and injections were deemed futile and CPR had been unsuccessful. They pronounced Mr. Araujo dead at approximately 4 p.m. His wife and children were told that he was dead and they phoned his parents in Portugal to give them the sad news. However, as the nurses were transporting his body from intensive care towards the mortuary, they noticed movement in his body. It had been 21 minutes before circulation had spontaneously returned to Mr. Araujo's heart. Dr. Mark Peterson, the chief of the cardiology unit, rushed towards the family and told them the good news. But he warned that if a person is dead for longer than 4 minutes, then there would be permanent damage to the brain since there was no oxygen accessing the brain in that time. He remained in a coma for 3 days. When he woke up, a new nickname had been coined for him by the staff. When I was at the hospital, they had no explanation for my problem, so people started calling me the Miracle Man. After he woke up, they asked him a series of simple questions like his name, age and who his family members were, but he gave illogical answers. His brain could not process the correct information. He was confused about why he was in the hospital, telling visitors and staff that he merely had a throat problem. He rejected interviews from journalists by crying out, "No, I don't want to be famous, I don't want to go on Big Brother." He was put in a separate room and disconnected himself from all of the cables connecting him to the various machines so that he could take a shower. The staff rushed in, since this had set off all the emergency alarms, saw the bed was empty and were confused at where the patient had gone. He didn't recognize his best friend each time he came to visit regularly and would press the emergency button each time he arrived. Throughout this time, in total a 2-week period, he has no recollection of the events that occurred. However, in the second week his condition began rapidly improving. When he regained his wits, Dr. Peterson sent him to hospitals in Bristol and Oxford to determine what had caused his attack and ultimate resurgence. A panel of 7 doctors told Mr. Araujo that there was no explanation as he had no prior history of heart problems and was in good shape for his age. Nevertheless, the most popular theory was that his brain had not sent the correct signal to his heart. Unlike everything else in the body below the eyes, they said that the brain is a mystery. "It's like a Pandora's box," said Mr. Araujo. They did not have the knowledge to know the reason behind what happened. He was fitted with an ICD, implantable cardioverter defibrillator, box against his heart. This device is programmed to send an electric shock through to his heart if his heart ever stops again. It also monitors his heart rate and sends readings back to the hospital. He was dispatched and told to carry on with his life normally. "I remember that my son and wife asked if I could carry on watching the football, because I am crazy for football." His doctor told the family that watching the football is good for the heart since it's an emotional activity. Dr. Peterson saw no problems with Mr. Araujo's heart and even recommended that he should continue being active. Within 3 weeks of the attack, Mr. Araujo was back to work. He had been working as a lorry driver but had his driving license stripped for a year, so the Cheltenham company Clean, named Paragon at the time, employed him in their factory. This was not the first time Mr. Araujo had made a miraculous recovery. In 2005, he had a crash in Cuenca, Spain, which left him with a broken femur, pelvis, foreribs and shoulder blade. He also suffered 90% blood loss, damaging his pancreas and liver. Doctors said that he would never survive the operation. He survived the operation. Then doctors said that he would never walk or move his arms again. He has scars all over his body from the injuries. "I call these my tattoos," he said. Mr. Araujo, 48, is now a local postman and lives with his family and a new partner in Linden, Gloucester. He visits the cardiology ward every 6 months for a checkup and is still known by the staff as the Miracle Man. Every time I go back, the nurses and the people who work there go, "The Miracle Man is back." Even people I don't know or recognize from different areas of the hospital say it's the Miracle Man. "Everybody knows you, you are famous." The postman has had only one issue with his heart since the original attack. In 2015, he collapsed while working as a delivery driver in Abergavenny. He then got back up to his feet and continued a full day's work, drove back to Gloucester, took a shower and then went to A&E. His boss called him crazy. The correct thing for Mr. Araujo to do would have been to have remained